Okay.
All right. Now we're finally recording, okay? Now it's happening. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear
All
you.
right. So I'm not very old to any of this, considering that I've been doing this for a while now. But for the first time, we've got Girlie Detective Run over here joining
Yeah.
us on the first episode of what we watched this month. Now it's no longer what I watched, which
Yeah.
only ran for 2 months.
Taking over.
Yes,
Yeah.
forcefully. All
Yes.
right. And that's what the first movie is about as well. Um, so listen,
Hmm. Very well done.
okay. Um, so Girly Detective Run, I'm gonna refer to as GDR from here on out.
Mm.
And I am MDR, Movie Detective Run, the best of all time. And all right. Okay, shut up. All right. So
Okay.
let's just get straight into it. So this has been a
Yes.
very strange month because we have seen some of
Mhm.
the worst films this month and some of the best as well in the same month.
Yes.
We've
Mm.
seen 17 films this month actually.
Wow.
And first, let's just get it out of the way that we saw Pathaan, and that was
Mhm.
probably the best film we saw this month. I'm not
Oh, good.
trying to, yeah, because I'm not trying to get it in this thing here because, of course, we have seen it. All of us have seen it. So
Mm.
and the series is not about what we've just seen this month, what's popular, but just the obscure kind of stuff that we sometimes end up
Yeah.
watching.
Mm.
Um
When you go down like that rabbit hole of like trying to
yeah.
find something that not many people have seen.
Which you make me go down all the
I
time.
do. I force you down that hole.
That sounds very wrong. All right.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the first film we saw this month was Kidnap.
Yes.
So
It's I mean, even just like hearing the name, like kidnap is not usually a word you associate with laughter, you know? But in this case,
are you
it
sure about that?
definitely is. It was comedy. It was comedy genius.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it's not a comedy film. So,
You sure about
you
that?
know, I mean, the name I think sums up the movie very well because it
Hmm.
makes me want to be a kid so that this movie, didn't exist back then. And also, it makes me want to take multiple naps during the watching of this film.
And that's shameful because this is a film by Sanjay Gadvi, who, if I
Yeah.
am right about, is the director of Dhoom and Dhoom 2, which are touted as one of the best Bollywood action films and a very neo-noir sort of action film, like
Mhm.
about vigilantes and stuff. You haven't seen them yet,
Have
but
not.
yeah, we'll see in some time. But growing up as an Indian kid, it was a classic duology. John
Mm.
Abraham, Hrithik Roshan, and they also reference that in Pathaan because they say Jim and Kabir, who are the characters of John and Hrithik in the YRF spy universe, used to be their best agents. And I think
Mhm.
that they say that because both of them did Dhoom, the first two Dhoom films, and those were the best films, and the first YRF action films as well. So now, because
Yeah.
YRF
My
is like the
voice
biggest,
is already.
now that YRF is the biggest action franchise now in India, running, which
Mm.
is a spy universe. Anyways, let's not get there. So let's focus on
Yeah.
Kidnap. This was the first film we saw, and it was not a very good film to start the month with.
I
If
mean, is it bad that I loved it?
I didn't
Like, I
like it
really
at all.
loved it. Like,
I
it was just, I mean, I haven't laughed that much for a long time because you're not that funny. No, I'm kidding. You are very
Yeah,
funny. But it
yeah,
did make me
sure,
laugh a lot, this film.
sure. I'm not funny.
It did make me laugh. It was just so many like layers of pure comedy gold with
Mm.
the certain one-liners and like the action sequences and just it was just delightful. The imagery, the styling. Because wow, that girl had some like 90s TLC kind of styling going on, even though she is in like a random house kidnapped. She
Yeah.
was really having those cool vibes going on with her style. So, maybe I need to be kidnapped just to have some better style, maybe.
I don't know about a style in that film. The only scene that I like the most is the one with Sanjay Dutt when he's on the bike and he literally takes the bike and he jumps it onto a ship, onto a ferry or
that
something.
that was the best action sequence I've ever seen, and that includes me
That was
watching
better than
Pathaan.
the Doom films.
That
This
was
is
better than the whole Pathaan
disappointing.
film. That
Yeah.
one scene.
But when talking like seriously, this is a very disappointing film considering that it's from the guy who directed Doom, which was
Yeah.
like a very one-off sort of, because you have not watched Doom, but you've seen the impact
No.
of Doom because you've seen that series
Yes.
Romantics, you've seen
Mhm.
the
Yeah.
timeline and the importance of a film like that for YRF. And like I am a big fan of YRF movies, and so are you. So I was
Hmm.
shocked. Then this guy, the first time he strays away from the YRF brand, this is what he makes. And I think this sort of not to take away credit from the director, but maybe shows that without Adi Chopra's genius, I mean, these half of the directors in Bollywood are.
I mean,
No, but that's the truth. Because
yeah.
you look at like when they don't have
I
Adi
mean,
Chopra's guidance over them, they just sort of. I'm not doing a fanboy
yeah.
thing here, but my
No.
perspective has changed on Mr. Chopra a lot after watching the
Yeah.
Romantics. Because as you
Hmm.
know, that I found a lot of similarities in my personality as with him.
Yes, it was a bit spooky, actually.
Yeah,
Yeah.
although I would love to just lick his boots with how successful he is. I'd like to just get 1% of that, and I'd be happy still. Because yeah,
Yes.
he did like what with Pathaan, 1,000 crores. If I get 1% of that, which is 1 crore, like an average Indian family can live off of that their entire
Mhm.
life. Anyway,
And maybe like a random English girl add her to the cart of that, maybe.
uh,
Just
let's skip that topic. So anything else would
okay.
you like to say about this film, Kidnap? Because
It was
to me,
just
because let's think of the purpose we watched this film for, which was that we want to
yeah.
watch every single Imran Khan film because we both like
Hmm.
him as an actor, and I got to
I'm a
do that
huge fan
big
of him
project
as
with
an
him.
actor. Mm.
Yeah.
And I think like usually he picks like films that are very like different. They're like different in some way. Like you could say they're like generic in certain ways, but they've always got something slightly different, whether it be like a twist at the end or whether it be like the more unconventional way it can happen in a film. Whereas this film, I mean it was like is it his first or one of his first? I can't remember.
No, no, no. His first film was a production of his uncle Amir Khan. It was that teen rom-com. We clicked off of that one. Um,
Yeah.
Jaane Tu Ya
Uh-huh.
Jaane Na. That was his first film. This was his second film. And
Mm-hmm.
for some reason, he did two films straight with Sanjay Dutt,
Yeah.
um, which was a bit
Who's a
strange.
legend? But like
I
who's a
would
legend?
have, I would have wanted him to do a film with Amir, considering, of course, he's
Yeah.
his uncle.
Yeah.
Uh,
I mean he could have quite easily have played like his younger brother because they do have such like a similarity like in their looks. But like I'm a huge fan of like his films usually. So this was I mean I could say it was disappointing, but actually I laughed the whole way through. And
I
so
was in a
like for
trance
me that's the for me you were sort of out of it at that point.
because the
But
film was very
you were kind
trance-like.
of like the girl, at the beginning of being kidnapped. She was a bit
Mm.
confused, a bit disorientated, a bit
Was
like,
she though?
why the
Because
hell
she
am
seemed
I
like
here?
she knew how to work
No.
it all out, but she just waited for the climax to
Yes,
do
that
it.
was a bit odd. That was a bit
Because
odd.
like the
I did
way
think at
she
some point
escaped, she could have done that at any point in the film, to be
she
honest.
could
It's not
have.
like she has a big revelation all of a
Maybe,
sudden.
hey, maybe she just had a weird crush. Who knows?
Nah, I'm not sure if I'm gonna. go with that because I think you're not remembering, but there's a very odd scene in the middle of the film where he's trying to force
Yes,
himself. So
that
I
is
don't
true.
know, like what kind, like this guy's making his debut. Why is he playing such gray characters? Like
Yeah.
just especially in an
And he
industry
comes
like,
across as a
the
bad
Hindi.
actor in this film, but he's not a bad actor, you know?
Oh no,
So
he's
that
not
was
a
a bit
bad
interesting.
actor by any sort because
No.
I love him.
But here, like the lines were so like monotone, you know, like they were all like one. It was
Hmm.
very like I think he was trying to go for like the tough sort of guy, but it come across a bit like robotic, you know, a bit like he was trying very hard
Yeah,
to
he was trying
come
very
across
hard to
quite
seem very like intimidating. Like he would like turn up
yeah.
his like eyebrows, like bring them close and together,
And
and
obviously the fake
he would not
tan
blink.
was
Yeah.
just like an added bonus in
Yeah,
this
why did
film.
they put fake tan on this guy? Was that to like
On
give
an
him a shade of
Indian.
like being
Like he
poor
isn't
or
an
something?
Indian. He is an Indian.
Yeah, because I
Yeah.
think what they were trying to do was that he's
Why
like
make him
poor and stuff.
orange? Yeah.
Yeah.
I think, yeah, it was kind of a bit Trump-esque.
That's what they did with that film Footpath as well with Imran Hashmi, his debut film. And they like just literally like paint all over his face, and it's bizarre. Like, why are you doing that? He normally
Yeah.
looks poor in the first film because it's his
Mm,
first film. So he's at his
mhm,
most raw look. He's not had those surgeries yet. I'm talking about any
mhm.
actor here. So I
Yeah.
don't know, like, and even like when he would, if you remember, like, I only remember one scene where he like turns around and he says, "You're kidnapped," and it's like, what? Okay, what a revelation. He just turns his
They
face,
did.
right? Can you
That
remember
was
that scene?
that
And
was
he's just like, "You're kidnapped."
that was another thing. They kept saying the word kidnapped all
Yeah,
the way
all the
through,
time.
as if they were so scared that we'd forget the name of the film.
Mm.
But
They
like,
were,
surely
I
they should
guess,
have
like
been
they were
more
trying
scared
to
that
do it like
people
as if it would
want to
make it.
forget the film,
Mm.
you know, instead of forgetting the name. Maybe they should have been more concerned about that. But
And
I thought it
the
was
look that Sanjay
delightful.
Dutt has in the poster as well. I don't think his hair is of the same length in the film. And like they
Mm.
have completely different hairstyles almost here. I don't even right because I don't think he has that hairstyle in the movie. I don't know.
Maybe he just went to like a beauty. So I can't even speak. A beauty salon.
Definitely, a Mary Kay's to get the fake tan. Anyway, this was not a good film. We're wasting too much time on this one. Let's
Yes, we
go on to
are.
the next
Yeah.
one. Oh
Mm-hmm.
God, this is worse than the previous one. Oh no, the prophecy. The
Yes.
prophecy of I can't even come up with a clever line right now. Just because I don't know, like this was weirder than the previous one, and especially there's a
Um,
really bizarre scene with that little girl. I don't know how that
is this
went through the censor.
is this the film that I basically zoned out of midway?
Yeah, 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 yeah. This is the
Yes.
film that had that questionable scene that I'm talking about, like
Mm.
with the little girl. Like, how did
And
they?
also there was it was this also the same film that that
What?
guy got run over.
Oh, yeah, yeah. That was a hilarious scene.
That was amazing. We actually rewound that I think 2 or 3 times
Yeah.
because it was that funny.
The thing is, I didn't find it funny initially because I was zoned out myself a bit. But then, like, when you started laughing at it, I just saw like how ridiculous it was, like all of the situation was. I don't even
Yeah,
know how I came across this film, why we chose to watch this
it
bizarre
was
film.
it was bizarre, I have to
Oh.
say. Like it was very much like I felt like, and I've never took acid, just putting that out there. But I feel like if I did take acid, this is what I would see. It's kind of like Alice in Wonderland level of trippy,
Yeah.
but like in a more sinister way. Like it was weird. Like
Yeah, it
I
was
have
like
to say,
if Alice in Wonderland was written by way of John Milton's Paradise Lost. Like just completely
ooh,
bonkers.
that's a very good way of putting it. I mean, I
I'm
have to
not
say,
sure.
I don't remember much
They
of
didn't
this
put that
film.
amount of effort in writing the film.
That's true. I think your analogy took more effort than the film.
Yeah. It was not a
But
good movie.
I do not remember much of this at all. I just remember kind of zoning out and then sort of coming back into it and then being like, why am I here?
They made
Like,
like the
what am I
gods like a
doing at this?
hippies. Like the devil was a
Yeah,
hippie.
they were kind of like, yeah, he kind of looked like he was been, smoking too much weed, like,
Yeah, they made
like,
everybody very hippie.
yo, dude, I'm the devil, dude, like that kind of
Yeah.
thing, like kind of
Like
like
as
the
if he was
devil,
not the
but
real devil, but like a
yeah,
Charles Manson-esque sort of devil.
yes, just like someone who
Not that
thought he
one.
was the devil.
Yeah.
Oh, someone who thought he was the devil because he took too much acid. That's what he was like.
Yeah,
And
I think
the
we're
whole
talking
film to
about
me was
Charles
that,
Manson's prophecy here.
yeah, yes, definitely. And the thing is, like, I, I think I've kind of zoned this out of my mind. To be perfectly honest, I just remember it was weird as hell.
Yeah, your memory
Pardon
is
the,
trying to suppress it because it was so bad.
and it was disturbing,
We
but
even
on a
tried the
level
sequel
of
because this
like,
film has like a lot of parts apparently for
yeah,
some reason. I don't know
yes.
how they were budgeting that or who
But the
was.
sequel had like a lower rating, right, to the first.
Yeah, as if the first
And
had
I
a
was
good
not
rating to begin with.
necessarily a fan of the first, to be honest. I think you appreciated it more than me. I think that is honest to say. Although I think
Mm,
now you're like looking back and you're like, nah, maybe not.
yeah, I guess that's why like doing it at the end of the month maybe is a better
Yeah.
option
See
because
what like was an
then you
impact
have
and what
more
did.
of a perspective. Yeah,
Yeah.
looking back, like what things do you remember and what you don't. The
Mhm.
only
Mhm.
things that I can remember is like the devil was super hippie. Um, the only good part was Christopher Walken. I'm walking here. I'm
And
Christopher Walken here. That was the only good part. But he looked too like pale. I'm sorry to say.
I just felt like Christopher Walken was walking into a bad role for this film.
All right, that's a good line to end that one on. Not
Yeah.
recommended at all, this film.
No.
Oh,
No, unless
okay. At
you want to
least
feel high
this
without
one's
being high.
this one's a better one. This one is
It's
definitely
brilliant. I love this film.
this one was a very good movie. Not too
Mm-hmm.
good though. I don't want to oversell it, but it was
So,
definitely in the top three that we saw this month.
mhm,
Because I love Tim
definitely.
Robbins.
Difficult.
Yeah.
But it was a good film.
Jeff Bridges to me is sort of like a action version of Harrison Ford because I can never see Harrison Ford as an action star because he's so like alternative. I can never see him fit into because of course like he's known as Han Solo, but to me he's
Yeah.
always been Rick Deckard. I like him in his alternate, like uh bizarre roles. I don't like him in like mainstream cinema a lot.
Hmm.
Although
Yeah.
like of course he's Indiana Jones. I think it's very controversial of me to say that he's not a very good action star, considering he's literally Indiana Jones and
That is
Han
a little
Solo.
bit controversial.
Yeah,
Controversial.
but the thing is, like, I like him in like the Blade Runner sort of roles. That's what he's
Mm-hmm.
always suited in to me.
Yeah.
And Jeff Bridges does the action stuff better, which is bizarre to say
Mm.
because Jeff Bridges does a lot of alternative stuff like The Big Lebowski and Tron and stuff.
Yeah.
But
Hmm.
Tim Robbins was very, very good in this film. You
I
just
mean, he's
can't
a
predict
brilliant.
Kenny. Like, you just can't predict that guy because that guy just fools the audience so much.
Yeah. I mean, like he played the role so well. Like I don't want to give too much away because it is like a nice film because you're constantly guessing all the way through what exactly is going on. But I thought each of the actors and actresses in this film acted really well in this actually.
Oh, I'm
Um,
sorry.
the,
I,
the,
I'm
do
sorry
you
to interrupt,
disagree?
but I just no, because I just saw on the poster it says Jeff Bridges, Tim Robbins, and Joan Cusack. I thought I read John Cusack, and I couldn't see him. I couldn't remember him
We
in the
love
movie.
we love John Cusack here.
'Cause I couldn't remember John in the movie because he isn't in the movie. So I thought like it was the
Mm.
girl John Cusack with makeup for a second. Because she must be related to him, because that's quite close a name, Joan Cusack. It's almost like a
Mm.
joke on him.
Maybe it is the same person,
I guess it's a
just one with
joke.
like up than the other. God,
That
that's
was the worst
terrible.
joke.
That was bad. That was bad. Let's
It was a
just put
jonk
it out
on
there.
Mr. Cusack.
Yes.
I miss
It
John
was
Cusack.
a
Do good
shameful
movies
joke.
again. Hmm.
But
But
anyway,
yeah,
back to the film.
yeah.
Have we even said the title yet? You haven't even
Oh,
said the
oh yeah, no,
title.
we haven't. Arlington Road. I'm sure they can see it on this.
Yes, Arlington Road.
Yeah.
Well, I love this film. The actress in this, I'm guessing, is the Joan Cusack woman. I've
Um,
seen her in stuff before, but like never anything like this. Like, there's a certain part of the film where she's like super creepy, and
yeah,
just
because
like
she's
plays it
wearing fake
so well.
makeup because it's actually John Cusack.
She plays the role so well. And I like the subtlety of acting in this film. It's not overacted. It's like constantly leaving you sort of wondering
I'm
exactly what the
sorry.
hell is going on. Why
Yeah.
are you still laughing at your own joke?
No, I'm just yeah. Anyway, yeah. I just because I keep
Um,
looking at the poster and she actually does seem to look a bit like John Cusack with bigger
he
eyes.
looks nothing like John Cusack. Like nothing like John Cusack. They literally are the total opposite in looks. Like
Mm,
out of any two people.
I
Other
don't
than
know
they're
about
the
that.
same race. Other than that, like everything is like opposite.
They are in the same race. They're both actors. Trying to get that imaginary brass ring.
But I like this.
Yeah.
Sorry, I like this film because it takes from like a lot of real things that happen in society all over the world, but particularly like focusing on America because this is based in America. Um, like it takes a lot of like reality and like it makes you question like what is real, what is false, like what we're told by, for instance, media, like how much of that is the truth, and how much of it is. I'm, hey, I'm trying to be very deep here, and
No, I can
everybody
just
is laughing.
remember the climax where he's like all sweaty and stuff running around, Jeff Bridges
Oh,
in
you're
his
imagining him sweaty.
no, in his like
You
tracksuit
need
and
to
stuff
calm
like that.
down.
No, 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 but he just looks disgusting in that scene, not to
That's a
disregard
bit
him.
harsh. He's going through a hard time.
Yeah, he was.
You try looking good.
Hard time is a good pun for that because he was gonna spend some hard time if I don't want to spoil
Mm-hmm.
the climax, but the
Mm-hmm.
movie was very, very good.
It was
This
brilliant.
is definitely worth watching. At least
100%. Yeah.
once. I'm not sure if I'll ever watch it again, but the
No,
one time
I
I
think it's
watched
like
it
a
was
one
good.
time watch. And I just think it just it makes you think. That's what's nice. It makes you think about like what's real, what's not, and how like our whole like belief system is all built up by what society tells you is the truth, and actually like digging deeper into these things, you could go down like such like deep dark holes in things, and like realize that so much of it is we don't really know like what's happening around us. We're just sort of like taking other people's words for it, and I
Mm.
just thought like the acting was brilliant, the story was really great, the way they conversed with each other was very natural, like it was like genuine like conversation style. It wasn't like it was scripted. So yeah, overall I thought it was a really good film. I enjoyed it a lot.
Yeah, because it was made like a as if it's like like a family
Mm-hmm.
drama. Because
Yeah.
it had that vibe. It had a very light vibe. The colors were
Mm-hmm.
not very uh gray, but they were sort of vibrant. The clothing was sort of
Yeah.
vibrant, and the film just had like that sort of a look. But right from the beginning, I mean, with that graphic image of the hand and stuff, it was
Mm,
it gets right into it. And the music, man,
yeah.
the
Oh,
soundtrack
I
was
forgot
amazing.
it started that way. Yeah, the soundtrack is brilliant, and
Yeah,
yeah, it does like I completely forgot that that's how it begins. Like it does begin literally with a bang.
yeah. I can't remember who did the soundtrack, but I think it's somebody really, really famous, and they've done a lot of other
Yeah,
soundtracks that I really love.
you recognize the person. I can't remember exactly what the name was. I'm
Yeah,
useless with names.
Yeah.
But it was something you recognized.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I and the guy who directed this film, Mark Pellington, that guy is amazing because he did the Mothman Prophecies, which we saw last month, which is not that
Mm.
great a movie, but it's watchable. Um,
It's
and then he did Runaway Jury, which is one of my favorite thrillers.
yeah, yeah, same.
Yeah.
Which
Because we've been trying to
stars?
look for a movie like that.
Who does that star? Hmm.
John
John.
Cusack. Hmm.
Yes, we're back. We did a 360.
Yeah. Full circle. All right, let's go. Oh, wait. Okay, this is the one. Al Pacino and
Mm-hmm.
Russell Crowe in a Michael Mann film called The Insider.
Mm-hmm.
Disappointing to me in one word.
Mm,
It had a lot of potential. It could have been something more
yeah.
greater. Because
Mm-hmm.
what I thought with the problem with the film was that it sort of talked about like how it's like because when you hear the word the insider, it's like, ooh, he's gonna, like reveal something very, very insane. And he just revealed something that everybody, even a fifth grader, if you asked him, like, do you think that it is harmful? Yeah, it's harmful. Yeah, that's the reveal. Um,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
he's just specifying it to a degree, but it's not something that
Mm-hmm.
nobody knows, like, or would have felt is true. And he really, like, what he reveals in the movie makes overall no impact. I think we're talking a bit out of context. Basically, what happens in the movie is there's this guy, Russell Crowe. He works for a tobacco company, like one of the big five firms or something. And then there's Al Pacino, who's like working, I think, for 60 minutes. And basically, he does this big reveal interview, and there's nothing in it. And
And
they,
you know what I find so interesting is the fact that Al Pacino's character works for 60 minutes. I think this film should have been 60 minutes because it went on for like 100 years.
okay. That was
Like
not
the
the
thing is,
best
there was a
line,
lot
but
of.
all right.
I thought it was pretty good. Let the audience decide if that was a good line. Audience, if you
All
think it's
right.
a good line, comment. um, but the thing about this film, there was a lot of like repetitive likeness in the dialogue. So
Mm.
there's like a clip of the interview that's kind of being re-looped constantly throughout the whole
Oh, yeah.
film.
It's
And
just
it's kind of
hammered
just
all over
so
the.
overdone
Yeah.
that it's like it kind of just dilutes the fact that it's any sort of news because you're just hearing it constantly. And I'm pretty certain this was like based on a true story, right? This film.
Yeah, 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 yeah. But certain
Yeah.
events have been fictionalized for the sake of dramatic
Mhm.
tension. I think it's said at the end.
And look, like obviously, like I love Russell Crowe as an actor. Al Pacino is just a legend. Let's just put it out there. Like this film with these two people should
Hey,
have
that's
been
not
one of
news.
the best
Now
films I've
that's a good line.
Okay, that is a good line. I will give you that
Yeah,
line.
yeah.
Well done.
If this film was 2 hours, it
This should have
probably would
been
have been
the best.
better. It would have been
Yeah.
more watchable. And I think it could have
Yeah.
very well easily been done as even like a 1.5 hour long film, to be honest. I don't know why they drag
Mm-hmm.
out so much. Some of the things in the especially in the middle of the film, I don't even know what's going on in the middle of the film. Like like
Mm.
who is after him? They
The
never
film was
even
a
like
drag, you know,
conclude
because
that.
it's about cigarettes. The film
Yeah.
was a drag. Sorry, I make
And
myself
considering that
laugh.
this was like
But
the
the thing is, it
follow-up
should have been
to
better.
Heat. Yeah.
Mm.
I mean, that's a disappointing follow-up.
Sorry.
And I think this was the
Yeah.
predecessor to Collateral, I think. I don't know if there was another film in the middle, but
Like
Collateral is a
it
masterpiece. And
wasn't. It wasn't that it was a bad film.
no, it
Yeah,
was a
for
bad
sure.
film, I think. I didn't
It
like
wasn't
it at
that it was
all.
a bad. I wouldn't say it was a bad film, but I found it boring. But then kind of like
It's not a
set
Michael
sometimes I
Mann
find just drama
subject matter
a bit
to be doing
boring.
something like this, I think.
Mm-mm.
It's not his kind of subject matter.
Yeah,
This
yeah.
probably would have been better off being directed by, like, I don't know, Mark Pellington, but not
It
him.
should have been it just should have been like better because of the actors that starred in it. Like um there was so much that we expected, you know? We expected it to be so brilliant because they had like these two great actors. Yeah, so yeah, it was a bit it just dragged. It dragged and dragged and dragged is what I would say.
And especially the gray hair on
So
Russell
yeah,
Crowe. Like that just for some reason, I don't know if that was like dyed or whatever, or if it
he
was
looked
a
like
wig, but it looked fake.
it looked like sort of like atomic blonde color, you know, instead of grey. Like as if he'd like bleached his hair.
Or maybe that was just the
But hey, maybe
ashes from
the
the
maybe the
cigarettes
guy.
at the factory
Yes, that's what it was. It
when the
was his ash.
testing and stuff.
It was ash blonde.
Yeah, the film as well was ash. Uh, all right.
This film made me want to smoke a cigarette because I thought I'm so bored. I might as well just, pick up a cigarette and smoke.
Hmm.
That's how bad the film was. It was just boring.
Yeah,
I feel like I'm being a bit harsh, but it was a boring film.
yeah. This was
Mm.
not
It was like a
interesting.
few hours we'll never get back.
All right, I feel like we're
Yeah.
dragging this out now with this one. All right, let's move on.
Yes, we are. Don't smoke, people. Okay.
Okay. Those who preach the loudest. Let's see now
Yeah.
what we have. So Akshay Kumar's Bachchan Pandey.
Okay.
So let me just give a bit of context. Why have we decided to watch this specific film? I have seen
Mm-hmm.
all four of the five of the films that Akshay Kumar put out last year. Our original plan was that
Mm-hmm.
you and I both watch them all together. But of course, that
Yes.
changed just the first half into his first film of previous year, which was this one. And I've included this film in this list because because we saw the first half together, and that was a considerable amount. I thought that was worthy to include it in the list because sometimes we watch a movie, then we click off of it, we never go back to it. Um,
Yeah.
this one
Sometimes
I
we like watch
finished.
like 10-minute little
Yeah,
segments and then
and we just click off
yeah.
of it. But I was watching this because I want to make a video on Akshay Kumar, and I want to talk about what he's doing wrong, and I want to learn like why such a big star is right now not doing very well. I have complete
Mm-hmm.
belief that he will bounce back. Because come on, God damn it, it's Akshay Kumar. He will bounce back. It's not just any other
Mm-hmm.
actor. This is Akshay Kumar.
Yeah.
Uh, he
Mm.
needs to do different kind of films. That's what I learned from watching
Yeah.
those five films. Um, and I know it sounds like really stupid saying that oh, you just watch those five flaw films and that's what you learned. No, because if you want to know all that, then you wait for that episode. So I
Mm.
am working on
Mm.
it, and this movie was.
Mm.
I don't want to waste time talking about this one because it's just
I mean,
disappointing.
I only saw like half of it, but it was a bit weird
Yeah,
and
it was a bizarre film.
like a bit forced. I
I
found
think the
from what I
marketing
watched,
was
it was
completely
seemed a bit
terrible.
silly and a bit forced.
Yeah, because this
Mm.
film is called Bachchan Pandey, and it has like that look about it that it's like a gritty, like masala Hindi
Mm-hmm.
action film, like sort of like
Mm-hmm.
Dabangg or something,
Yeah.
where he's just gonna be all out like
Mm-hmm.
like that. And when you watch it, it's trying to
Mm-hmm.
do something intellectual. It's trying to like counter its genre and stuff. And it's like
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't work because the guy who's trying to counter the genre is the most generic director of his genre, Farhad Sanji, who's the most
Yeah.
generic comedy director. I'm not going to take intellectual lessons about how to counter, a saturated genre like action films in India from
Mm.
a guy who
Mm.
makes the most saturated comedy films himself.
Ooh.
So, no, and that's the
What shot?
truth.
I say shots fired. I said Fox.
No, because
Shots
you know what? I liked
fired.
some of the dialogues that he used to write because he used to be a dialogue writer in the beginning. And when I found out some of the films that he had written dialogues in, like that, I actually really liked some of the puns and stuff he did. But I think like he's just like reached a saturation point, and considering that now he's the director of Hera Fairy 3, I am concerned. The thing is, he is also the director of the upcoming Salman Khan film Kisi Ka Bhai Kisi Ki Jaan, but we all know that he's just a director on paper because if it's Salman Khan film, it is inevitably a Salman Khan film. Salman Khan has complete
Yeah.
control about whatever is happening. He's
Mm.
gonna really, just if I can put it in a simpler way, direct the film, not as a director, but
Mm,
direct the film's, storyline, the music, like what the feel of the film is going to be. And that will
yeah.
never work with any other actor. And it is proof that it never works with any other actor other than Salman Khan. So I think he's just like that, become like a shell director for Salman Khan. Uh,
Mm,
Although that sounds pretty bad saying that, but like just like how there's this other director called Prabhu Deva who used to be a choreographer before, who does some
yeah.
of Salman's films. Remo D'Souza, who was also a choreographer before, now directs some of his films. Of course, it's
Mm,
pretty obvious Salman Khan is, behind all of these because even when he began his career, he wanted to be a director. Um, but
yeah.
this movie, just like coming back to it, this is not a good movie. And if the guy who has made this is making Hera Fairy 3, and I do you know that this petitions started on change.org and stuff to change him as the director from the Hera Fairy third part.
Oh,
Um, yeah, and people are saying that he's like Nolan and stuff. Like they're like making a meme out of him, which I find a bit, sad. Um,
yeah.
I feel bad for him, but I just feel like he needs to maybe take a break, just see what kind of direction he should do and try to bring something different to the table instead of, trying to preach to the audience about how
Yeah.
intellectual he can be, especially when he cannot
Hmm.
himself excel in his own genre of films. So maybe first excel in that and then try and teach the
Yeah.
audience. Just, I don't
Mm.
hate him, but it's the
No.
truth and the numbers spoke for themselves. Anyway,
Hmm.
Flight Plan, worst poster ever, by the way. I don't know what the point of that poster
Yeah,
is.
it's not a good. She looks a bit confused in that.
She looks
Yeah.
a bit like a
Although I
fox,
guess that makes
more like
she
Jodie
is quite
Foster.
fox-like. Yes. Jodie, yeah.
What did you think of this
Yes.
film?
I
Considering because you really liked this film
wow.
whilst you were watching, you kept saying it to
I
my
really
face.
love this film, actually. Yes. I was like, I like this. I like this. And you were like, shut up and watch the film. I was like, I like this. I like this. I love this film. Like, I like this film a lot more than you did, I think is fair to say. Um, I thought in some ways it was like a typical sort of actiony drama film, but I don't know, I found it in some ways original as well. Like the fact that it all like took place on a plane, I thought was like um a great way of doing it because
As if that wasn't a
there's
subgenre at the time of taking things and making them about just one event. Like how there was that movie Speed, which takes place entirely on a
yeah, it's
bus.
true, with the bus. Mm,
Mm.
okay. I mean, I listen, and then obviously there's the snakes on a plane.
Ah.
um,
Yeah, how could I forget that one? Because that's a pretty
yes,
big
I
one,
mean, that
yeah.
would have been a better comparison. Just saying, but anyway, but I like the fact that it was on a plane because it
Yeah.
made the whole sort of like practical side of the story different. So
Yeah.
like a lot of the things that took place could only take place on a plane, like the fact that so basically the film, without giving too much away, is about a woman that knows a load of stuff about a plane, and then her husband kind of dies under mysterious circumstances, and then she arrives on a plane with her daughter, and then her daughter goes missing. um so that's basically the plot of the film, but I loved it. I thought Jodie Foster, is it Jodie Foster?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry. For a second, I was unsure. Right. So I thought she played it brilliantly because she, because basically in the film she's kind of mm, made to feel very confused about the whole situation. Um, but she's very much she plays like a very strong woman in this film, which I like. Like she's very like mother tiger, kind of like vibes. Like she's very much
Yeah,
like protect.
I remember you like shouting at one point in the movie, like, let's go. Yeah, she's a mama bear.
Yes, because I just felt like, and I don't think about. I don't think this is
Made me
with
root
all
for the
films,
terrorist.
but right. So I like the fact that because in a lot of films, you do have the women that are like sometimes more vulnerable, which is like a true part of
Mm.
women for sure. But I love the fact that she was very, very
Is it?
strong-willed in the
Yeah.
film. I love that. And I like the fact that again, kind of with like Arlington Road, you kind of like left guessing all the way through the film, like exactly what's happening.
Yeah, we
So I
watched a
like
lot of like films about like terrorism for some reason this month.
we have,
Even though
yeah.
we didn't mean to,
And
because we were trying to watch just like small town thrillers and stuff.
mm,
They all turned out to
and I
have these big
do
conspiracies.
think like it was quite edgy to sort of go there,
Ooh, yeah,
because like
yeah.
terror,
Especially with that like whole like Arab thing that they were trying to
yeah,
do with the Middle
yeah.
Eastern guys. Yeah.
Yeah, kind of like, the kind of assumption in sort of Western countries that it is more
Mm,
likely to be a terrorist if they aren't white, which is clearly like not not the truth. But
mm,
unfortunately, I do think that is something that's sort of peddled.
mm.
Again, like in news and stuff, I do think it's sort of like peddled that way. Um, but so I think them taking that sort of
Yeah, a terrorist
thingy.
is a terrorist.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And like to take like the sort of I don't know what the word I'm looking for. Um la, 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 la. What word am I looking for?
I don't know. Um,
Basically, when people are being ah, like
ah,
closed-minded and
close,
I don't know the
narrow-minded.
word. It's a simple word. Yeah. And like ignorant, like the
Mm,
ignorance of like society as a whole, the fact that it is kind of they kind of went there with the sort of attitude and sort of like bias that exists still in this world, which is obviously very sad that it's the case. But I'm glad they went there because I do think it could have
yeah.
been quite easy for them to go down that route, of the sort of more quote unquote obvious stereotype of what a terrorist is. And it completely like flipped that on its head, which I appreciated a lot.
Considering that this
But I think
film,
it's there.
what makes it edgy, I think I just like it just sort of came to me right now whilst you were saying that this film actually I think came out in 2005
Mm-hmm.
and 9/11 was I think
Mm,
only 3.5 years before this film.
yeah, yeah.
Because it happened in 2001, but of course it was towards the end of that. And this film, I
Mm-hmm.
think, sort of came out in the mid of 2005. So you can, kind of
It
see the
kind of like
timeline
the
there.
film sort of
It's a pretty
like
edgy thing for that time, considering how much
yeah.
criticism and how much
Mm,
human rights were being violated at
mm,
the time, with especially
yeah.
Eastern people.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
Um, of course, on which there's another brilliant film called New York by Kabir Khan, the director of
mm-hmm.
Ek Tha Tiger, which you haven't seen
Yeah,
and you need to. I'll
I
show you that
know.
one
I've like
at some
desperately
point.
wanting to see that film.
Yeah. But
Um,
yeah, anyways, I think that's I would recommend this film once, even though I was not a
yeah.
fan of it.
Yeah.
But I think you've pretty much convinced me now. Yeah. I have to give it
I
to you
really
that you
loved it.
predicted who's going to be the terrorist like five
Yes,
minutes into the movie. So that
yes,
was
I
pretty
did.
good.
But then
Although I
I'm
predicted the ending
pretty
then.
good.
I predicted the
Mm,
ending if you
let's just
remember at the
say,
beginning.
we're both right and leave it at that.
Right.
I think we both sort of were pretty good in our
We both might have
analysis.
been right, but both people were wrong in this film, which is called The
Yeah.
Recruit, as you can this this one was probably the worst
You could say
espionage
that.
film, like the action thriller film.
Mm,
Because
I
it
mean,
was it was just the most generic version
it
of what
was.
a spy film could be. It had all
Yeah.
those twists that you would think it would have. It had every single look that a
Mm,
spy
mhm.
film would have. This film is like the most typical generic spy
Mm,
film ever.
Yeah. And the thing is, like, I feel like considering it was that spy film, like you see, for instance, like let's say like the most obvious, like Mission Impossible, for instance, like the action in that film is so fun. Whereas in this film, it was kind of
There was
like
no action. I
the
can't remember any.
well, it was very, very little action, like very
Yeah.
little action. And then the action that was there, I think it was sort of built up to be something more than it was. Like, because it came like nearer to the end, if you remember, like
Mm.
there was a bit of action at the end.
There was
Um,
just one freaking chase, and that was it. There was just one
mm,
chase. The guy just
and
chases
yeah,
him.
near the end, yeah,
And then,
and
like, they made him play such an idiot. Like, if he's such a cunning guy, he can literally fool the
yeah,
American government and,
mm,
agencies,
mm,
CIA or whatever they work for,
yeah.
CIA, as he says it. And then at the end, just sort of like blabbers out, like rants out whilst they've got all the police on. They're like, you don't know. And then he's like, all this stuff. And then at last, he looks at Colin Farrell and he's like, they were pointed at you.
And plus, as
And then
well,
he's like,
there's
here
like
goes nothing.
a also as well. That's a good impression. Also, as well, there's
More like
kind of
that
like a
defined the movie. Here goes nothing. They should have said that at the beginning.
yes, 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 yes. And also, there's a kind of like romance in the film, but they kind of like there's no real
Emotion.
connection
There's
in the
nothing.
romance or
They should
emotion. And
have
there's
taken
no
a
kind
lesson
of
from Make the Tiger about
yeah,
that.
for sure, for sure. Like there was no sort of build up of these two characters getting to know each other to fall in love with each other. It was kind of like, they kind of had the hots for each other, and then all of a sudden they're like,
And only
like
them.
willing to die for one another. It was just there was just
Yeah.
nothing there, and like the actress, like she's a very beautiful woman, but like she kind of like it was a bit like rememberable, like in terms of like a character.
Ooh.
I would say she's like very like sort of vanilla, I would say, as a character.
Ooh. Come on. That's harsh.
I don't think that's harsh.
I guess what you're trying to say is that because Colin Farrell and Al Pacino are such iconic actors, that woman sort of gets singled out
Yeah, but
and
also
becomes
I
almost,
think it's the fault of like the script of
unimpressible.
the film
Of
because
course, the script is the biggest
her
problem of the
they
movie.
didn't give her like a like character. I know
Yeah.
obviously she was playing a character, but there was no character to her
Yeah.
character. Like
Because
there was
if you
nothing
take the example of
of
like
her.
Ek the Tiger,
Yeah.
like the character of Zoya of Katrina Kaif in
Mm,
that film,
yeah,
she has her own separate character arc, even a
exactly.
side
Yeah.
role
Mhm.
character as the guy who helps Tiger. Even he has his
Yeah.
own arc. Because remember at the end
And
he
she
shoots
has
him,
amazing screen
and
presence
this
also.
yeah, and he like
Yeah.
shoots him at the end, whilst they had such a good bond from the beginning
Mm, hmm.
because of his beliefs. So every
Yeah.
single character in that film goes through an arc. And in
Hmm.
this film, every single character fails to even establish what their identity is
Yeah, there's
properly.
no sort of like emotional link when you're watching the film. Like you don't
None.
root for any particular character, you don't hate any particular character, you don't love any particular character. It's sort of like, yeah, okay. And it's kind of like that. They're kind of sort of very generic characters, all of them. The storyline was very generic and the script was like boring and a bit too forced. Like
And
there
it
was
dragged
times where they
out.
were trying to, yeah, there was times where they were trying to make it sound cool, but it was
Oh
too, it
yeah, that
wasn't,
was definitely
you know.
their attempt. It's
So yeah,
like a
it was a
bad
bit,
Tom Clancy game or something, or a bad Tom Clancy movie at that.
mm,
I don't know.
yeah,
This movie Recruit,
a
more
bit
like
like
who
Bones.
recruited the crew for this crude. I don't know. This is not a good movie. All
No.
right. Oh my God, Dilwale.
God.
Like for the most
Oh,
iconic romance film, DDLJ from India,
mhm.
and
Yeah.
doing this film as like the 20, I think it was the 20th anniversary. Yeah, they did it for the
Mm,
20th anniversary, and they released this film,
mm.
with the same title and like an ensemble cast with two rising actors and
Yeah, great
you know
actors.
two
Yeah.
legendary actors like Shah Rukh and Kajol. I mean, their on-screen chemistry like defines
Mm,
a large part of the Indian cinema around the
yeah.
world.
Mm,
And to have this shell of a film as a tribute to their on-screen chemistry over the years is, I think, disrespectful to their
Mm.
legacy in a way. I'm surprised and shocked that such a big company as Red Chillies
And
Entertainment couldn't see how many scenes were copied in this film.
yeah,
And
yes, yes. So basically, like I've seen a film called Love Actually, which is kind of like an English sort of like romance comedy drama with an
Mhm.
ensemble cast. I love it, and it's a film like that always comes around Christmas because it's kind of like all based around Christmas time in the film. And there's a kind of a scene in which like a man that is in love with his best friend's wife um kind of stands in front of her in a doorway and has these big sort of notes, these big massive notes. And it says like a dialogue on it with like different lines and a few images and stuff like this. And this is something that was completely copied in this film, like completely, even down to the joke and like the kind of lines he was saying. It was exactly the same. So I didn't appreciate that. And I thought as well, like you seemed because we do watch because we watch so many films. Like there are films that disappoint us, and there's films that are just not very good. But this like seemed to genuinely like upset you because the thing is, you have like a legendary actor like SRK, and
Mm,
we all know he's a legend, and we all
mm.
love him, and he's been in such iconic films, and like you said, alongside um I don't want to
Joel,
say her name. Yes, yes. um so sorry about my bad uh
that's all right.
Indian. um but
Indian, English,
Indian.
right?
um but it was just disappointing, like you said. Like they've had such like an iconic film together, like literally so iconic that it's still replayed in cinemas constantly. um so
Yeah, I
this was
saw it
like
like 2 months
seemed
ago in
like
the cinema.
quite,
Yeah.
it seemed to like really upset you, um
It
like as
did.
a fan of them. And
Yeah.
it was just kind of, it was it was trying way too hard all the way through to be funny.
And that was
um
the thing was that you noticed that one scene that they had copied. Then I
mm,
noticed one scene that they had copied for SRK
yeah.
and Kajol's first
mm,
date, as it is supposed to be,
mm,
completely ripped off from How I Met Your Mother. And I
yeah.
even announced that I'm going to make a video on it. But I just felt like with the mood of Pathaan, I just want to celebrate the success of Shah Rukh Khan once
Yeah,
more. I
yeah.
don't want to criticize him right now, which is why I never came out with this video. Because if I did this episode, I would have ripped this film apart because
Yeah.
just of how many faults there are and just how good it could have been and how bad it turned out. Especially the
mm,
action, I think, was the first big disappointment for both of us. Because when
yeah.
SRK
Yeah.
walks through that shutter in the dark, you're like, yeah, let's go.
Mhm.
It's gonna happen. They're gonna
Yes,
do it.
yes.
And as soon as he starts hitting, it's cartoonish. And I'm
It
like,
is
what
extremely
is this?
cartoon. Yes. Yeah.
Why are we not getting like realistic sort of, or at least like even if it's stylistic, then like,
Well, the
like
thing is, you have on
a
one
sense of
side, you have
weight to
yeah.
them.
So you have on one side, you have like the Salman Khan sort of comedy action films that do it
Yeah.
perfectly well. And then you have the more serious action films like with Pathaan and with Tiger. Um, and each of these like ways of doing action works so well, but this somehow fell kind of in the middle, but didn't do either one well. And I
Because I
felt like
think
it
what
was
was
just,
happening because for I think what was happening was they were trying to copy that style of Salman action.
mm,
Because if you
yeah,
remember in that film Bodyguard, at the end of the climax, where it's like in just water and they're in like
yeah,
this
yeah,
very weird place and they're fighting,
mm,
it is sort of
mm,
like that, cartoonish sort of action.
yeah, yeah,
And only Salman Khan can pull that off because it's
yeah.
his
I was
style.
about to say that.
He can go from
Yeah,
like serious cartoonish action to all of a sudden doing like some sort of a comedy bit, like how he does a recurring joke in all his action films with that one
yeah,
guy who appears in
mm,
Dabang and then in Dabang 2 and then in Kick. And he even
mm,
as recent as the film Godfather, he appears in that as well. And so it's just like he does that and only he can do that. Um Shah Rukh Khan, if he does action, He needs to do action like Dawn.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's why
Mm.
Pathaan's action
I think
works.
I not mentioned Don as well. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Mm.
That's the kind of action Shah Rukh Khan suits in because he's like a more, not to say that he's more charismatic than Salman, but Salman is more like, I guess, like in a way, like very childish in his approach
Yeah,
to
he is.
action.
Yeah.
And it works for
Mm.
him because he is very innocent like that.
Mm.
At the same time, he has that contrast of being super, super intimidating. But with
Yes. Yeah.
Shah Rukh, it's like he's a very shy, romantic kind of guy, and his contrast is to have serious, kind of action like Dawn.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's
And
like
also,
those two
like,
sides.
I usually really love that actress. You know, like the younger girl in this.
Kriti
That's on the
Senon.
post. Yes,
Kriti,
I'm
yeah.
like a really big fan of her. Like I've only seen a couple of her films, but both films were really great and very like original. And her acting usually is very subtle and like very realistic. Like you kind of feel like she's just like a like I felt like when I watched her other films, like I was almost like her friend, you know? Kind of
Hmm.
makes you feel like this is a real woman, this is a real person. But in this, because the scripting was so bad, like even she couldn't
Yeah.
make it.
Overall, the film was just pointless. I thought.
Yeah, it was too forced, and there was a bit of a weird story with like the younger actor in this. My
Hmm.
brain has gone. My brain has
Varun
gone.
Dhawan, you mean?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, yes. So
Actually,
he
it's
has a
surprising.
friend.
Yeah, because when we were watching the film, I felt really horrible saying that Varun Dhawan and Kriti Senon's love angle was more interesting than SRK and Kajol's in the film, which
You did say
which
that.
was because it was very
It's
interesting
an
because
extraordinary thing to say as well, really.
yeah,
You-
considering that these two are such legends, I mean they have defined the romance that Varun and Kriti were trying to imitate. But the
Yeah.
problem was you don't show us two very youthful kids falling in love and then show us the older couple falling in love. You
Mm,
can do it reverse and it works, but you can't do it that way where you show the younger kids falling in love because
mm,
theirs is more
mm.
naive and it's
Yeah.
more fresh and it is more believable because they're young and they're falling in love for the first time. Whereas with the older couple, it's sort of like just like, oh yeah, I just met you, so I guess I'll
Mm,
just get along with you because I'm
yeah.
pretty single and I'm
Yeah,
taking the
they
time
didn't
on my
build it up
watch.
enough. Like they didn't
They
really
never
seem like
built it up.
that true connection. And also like the film was
They gave
just
more
messy.
screen time, I felt like, to the younger kids'
Yeah,
love
they did.
than to
And
theirs.
also like one other thing, there's this weird sort of like angle where like the younger brother's best friend kind of like
Oh
drugs
my
him
God. Oh
and
yeah.
then steals stuff from him. And it's like, God, like
And they're
I know
still
like
friends by the
friends
end.
like yeah, I know like friends fall out and do wrong things, but that surely that's a bit extreme. You know, like oh yeah, my best friend drugged me.
And he
And
and he
it kind of
justifies
felt
it in the movie.
yeah. And also like it kind of was like, you know, when I was watching the film, I kind of wanted to be drugged and put to sleep just so I could avoid this film because it was that bad.
But yeah, thank you for reminding me that because that was the
It
I
was
think that was
odd.
like a I don't know. The thing is with the why I'm saying that their love story was more interesting than the others because the love story of SRK and Kajol in the film solely dependent on that date scene. And
Yeah.
whilst I was watching that, knowing that this was stolen from How
Yeah.
I Met Your Mother, if I perhaps did not know that, I would have found it cute and might have actually enjoyed it.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, because
because
I
I
enjoyed
very well,
it.
yeah, because
Because
because you
I
were
haven't
enjoying it.
yet seen that episode of How I Met Your Mother, even though
Exactly.
we are
So it
going
looked
into it.
cute in that manner. If it was an
Yeah.
original idea, 10 out of 10
Mm,
for that. But because it
mm.
wasn't, and I could just see it, and I could just see how shallow it was, and just seeing
Yeah.
that, these two actors, they're so big actors that it probably did not
Mm,
even reach to their radar that these scenes are
yeah.
stolen.
Which
They
is a shame
probably
because
didn't
I'm
even
sure they
know.
wouldn't
I'm
want
sure they did.
to.
I'm sure 100% SRK did
I
not
can't
know because
imagine
he would
us.
have not gone through with it.
No,
He wouldn't
no.
have. Considering that he is the guy, like the guy who defines romance to the fucking,
Mm.
sorry, to the world. And
Yeah.
now he has been put in a situation where he has to copy scenes from
Mm.
a TV
Yeah,
show
he
from
doesn't need to copy anyone.
2006.
That's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like this guy's
Mm.
been around since 1992 in films. and he
Yeah.
has to take scenes from a 2005 show. That
Mm.
that could never happen. And SRK is so confident he wouldn't have done it. I think it just never reached their radar, and that's a very
Yeah.
sad thing.
Yeah.
This film
Yeah.
was very disappointing.
Mm.
I'm not gonna watch it until years and years down the line, whilst I'm doing the Evolution series,
I'm
and I finally reached the year
okay.
2015.
I was gonna say I'm like surprised that you're even
Mm,
considering
oh no, no, no!
rewatch.
Just
Yeah.
for that Evolution series once more,
Yeah.
but not
For
after,
business
not
and
before.
definitely not pleasure with that one.
As did SRK with this project. Anyway,
Yeah.
let's move on to the next film. Naqaab. All
Yes.
right. Um,
Mm-hmm.
the most shocking thriller of the year, they say on the top of the poster.
Mm.
I would say it was the most shocking thriller of the year. I don't know what that means,
I
but
don't know, but
I don't know what the film means as well. This is Wasn't this the weirdest thriller film you've
it
seen?
was bizarre. I mean, like, let's just put it out there. I actually liked it. Even though it was
Even I liked
cringy
it
at
a bit.
times. Yeah, it was cringy at times, it was cheesy at times. But like a bit of cringe is quite delightful at times, and so is a bit of
Especially when
cheese.
they like do close-ups of
Extra
Akshay
cheese.
Khanna's face and he's making all
Oh
those weird
yes.
faces.
Yes, he does make some interesting faces. He's kind of like, do you know when like a baby's first born and they're kind of like figuring out their own face? It was kind of like that. it was
I
it was
remember
bizarre.
like that guy KRK. He I think once said in something that somebody, I don't know like whether it was true or not, but I can't remember where I saw it. But he was talking about the fact that somebody told Akshay Khanna to make weird faces and he'll become more famous as an actor. And
Wow.
that's why his career flopped. Although
Well, in
Akshay
that
Khanna's
case, I
career
could
never
be
flopped.
ignorant.
He voluntarily stepped out of movies and voluntarily came back. I
Yeah.
love Akshay Khanna because I am one of his biggest fans. And I was very happy to find out that Shah Rukh Khan is too. And he said that because he produced one of his comeback films, which was a thriller film. I I like the twist of the film, even though it does not
Well,
really make a lot of sense.
it kind of was like a twist and a twist and a twist and a twist.
Yeah.
You know,
It was a refreshing
I
bad
liked it.
thriller.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was. Yeah, that's the thing. Like we have kind of like a bit of like a guilty pleasure where we
Yeah.
watch bad, sometimes
Because do you know
trashy
why?
thrillers.
Because it teaches you how not to do it. And when I
Yeah,
heard, and this has been my justification for watching average thriller movies for all my life. And I really believe in it because I, having seen all these like hundreds of movies, I understand now what not to do in a thriller film, what makes it
yeah,
bad. And when I
mm,
saw that in the Romantics, Aditya Chopra said that, yeah, I watch every single film, even the bad ones, because it teaches me what
mm,
not to do. I was
hmm,
I was like, wow. So I'm not the
yeah,
only one. And the only other guy who's doing it is Adi Chopra, the most successful producer in the history of Indian cinema. All right, now that's so at least I've got a good trait there.
you're
So
in
I
good
can
company.
justify it. Yeah, I
Hmm.
can justify it. At
I
least
I
now I
liked
can.
it, but it I liked it because it was bad. You know,
Yeah.
I enjoyed it. What
The
can I
thing
say?
is,
I liked
when you go into a movie expecting it to be good and then it's
it.
bad, it hurts, like with
Yeah,
Dilwale.
yeah, yeah.
With this, we expected something bad, and it turned out to
Mm,
be just a bit better than that. So I guess we
yeah.
were satisfied with
And
what we saw.
the idea was very interesting. Like I don't want to say
Mhm.
anything just in case
And it
someone
didn't
hasn't
stretch
watched
out
it.
as
But
well. And like that
yeah, that's
song,
true.
we only watched it for that one song. And
Yes, yes,
god damn, did
yes.
that song come at a weird point. Because remember, like he walks in and he's
Yeah.
like recording her with the camera and he's like making
Mm.
weird smiling faces and stuff.
Oh, yeah, he looks
So
very
creepy.
pervy, I have to say.
And he's not like that in reality. That's the thing.
Yeah,
I don't
no.
understand what it is with him
He
that he
reminded
looks so
me of
pervy.
like I've seen this like sort of just okay animation film called Flushed Away, and there's a character that I
Oh
think's
Lord.
meant to be a rat,
Don't
and
say
he
that.
reminded me of that. He reminded me of that. I have to say it. I'm sorry because if someone's seen that film, they'll know what I mean. It's the
Wow.
same facial expressions,
And
but like
doesn't it like
I
I
love
remember
him
like
as an actor. I have to say that.
I remember like in the beginning of the movie, like the girl is like has like a stalker and stuff, and I don't know whether
Mm.
this turns out to be a part of the movie or not. So if it does,
Hmm.
like at the end, I don't know whether it is connected to
I
that.
mean,
They just
so
forgot. I don't
it's
know.
like a separate thing, I think, right?
I
Yeah,
I
it
think it's
is.
part of his movie project, but I think we're gonna give some
Mhm.
spoilers. But this
Yeah.
movie uh, is if you want to watch like a bad movie, but
Mm,
want it to be a bit better than just bad, then you can play
mm.
this in the background and
Like
shut
it's
off
very
one side
watchable,
of your
I would
brain.
say.
Yeah.
It's very watchable. Like
Just
it's
for
not
like
one of
how
those
shocking it
like,
is.
so
It is
bad
the
that you
most
can't.
shocking movie. That I think that tagline is correct because it was a very shocking
Yeah,
film. I didn't expect
yeah.
Akshay Khanna to look so pervy. So I guess in that sense. Anyway, oh God, Tere Naal Love Ho Gaya. I remembered this film better than it actually was. I
Mm,
remember watching it on the TV because, like, in the middle, then there we got in the mood of watching a lot of tips movies for some reasons. Uh,
yeah.
because just because of how much I love Ajab Prem Ki Gazab Kahani, which is a tips classic. Uh, and I just sort of wanted to watch like moderately okay Indian thrillers, sorry, movies at that time, whilst we
Mm,
were watching these films. And this film, I remembered it to be so much better than it actually was.
yeah.
And all my memories were from the first half. Do you know what? I didn't even remember that they go back to his village and that there's that whole second half.
Mm. I mean, I have to say, like, maybe it's different for you because it's the second time you've watched it. But as like a first watch, I actually really enjoyed it. It's a bit
Come
far
on.
fetched, I would say. I did. I can't help it. I'm sorry. Like it was a bit far fetched, but I did like their relation. Um, because for instance, like obviously in the recruit, like we said, there was no build up at all. There was no getting to know each other or any of that. Whereas in this film, at least they got to sort of know each other and they sort of become friends throughout the film. And then, it becomes something a bit more like it was quite a natural progression, I would say. I think they
Yeah.
took the time out to make sure that their connection was like worth showing. And I really like the actress in this.
Oh, Genelia,
And she
yeah.
came across, yeah, she came across very likable, like definitely
She
very
is
likable
likable, very
and
likable.
very
Because I find her to be
watchable.
very similar to you, as I've said before to you. Because she's very like
Wow,
bubbly and stuff. She's
beautiful.
very
So
like,
I
ooh,
guess
she's very high
it's
energy.
it makes sense. We're both very very beautiful people.
Okay.
This is
But
why this
but
is,
I found
I'm
this
so
film
beautiful. I don't show my face.
right. But I found this film rather fresh because usually
Mm,
it so happens that on-screen like off-screen couples are really bad on screen sometimes.
mm,
Take the example of Saf and Karina. Every time they start in a film together, I think just off the top of my head, Agent Vinod flopped.
mm,
The film they did together. Then they did that one, Qurban before that, that flopped. Tashan they
mm.
did, that flopped. Even though that they were not a couple in that film, but
Yeah,
yeah, like every single time they get on screen together, it does not work because
and
I
that does
remember
happen
like
a lot.
yeah, and
With
I
that.
remember like I think Saf or Katrina, sorry, Karina, not Katrina, were given an interview. I don't know, like I think it was to Mr. Komal Nahata. I don't remember what one it was,
Hmm.
which one of them it was, and they said that it's because they have so much comfort between them, and then
Yeah,
they need more tension. And this is something in Brahmastra as well. Ranbir and Alia, I almost felt like there was no chemistry on screen. It just
they're
didn't
almost
click
a
for
bit like
me.
brother and sistery in that.
Yeah,
Like that. It wasn't. It didn't
it
feel
was a
romantic.
bizarre. Yeah, it just felt like, and I don't think it's their fault. I think it's the
No.
length of that film because of how much
Plus
long
this
it took to
this
make that movie.
and plus like the
Imagine
progression.
like
Like
acting in that film for like 6 7 years,
yeah, yeah,
and you're like just acting. Like, of course, it's gonna be a bit
mm,
bizarre.
yeah,
So I think it just didn't click. But with this movie, like, despite the fact that Ritesh and Janelia had been together at this point for like 9 years or something, if I'm right,
mm.
and they still can just pull it
They
off
have
so
amazing
fresh.
chemistry
Yeah.
in this.
And of course, they
Like
got, I think,
very
married three
technical.
weeks before the release of this
Yeah,
film.
which is lovely. I mean, it was very natural between the two of them. And the thing is, like, ultimately, what is this film? It's a romance comedy. I laughed during it, and I also felt connected to the couple in this film.
Yeah.
So I think it did its job very well. Like, it's I don't look at back on it and think it's one of the best films I've ever seen, but it left me with a very nice, cozy feeling, and I actually really enjoyed it. I enjoyed it from beginning to end, actually. I didn't feel like it dragged.
Mm.
Um,
Because I,
I
in the
felt
second
like,
half, was just feeling like, what is going on?
yeah, but I was loving it.
All right.
Um, I enjoyed this film. I enjoyed it. And like
Mm.
obviously there's a couple of like very great actors as well in this.
Oh,
Um,
yeah. Yeah.
so and they always do a great job. So
Yeah.
yeah, overall, I thought this was a really nice film. If you just want like a film that you don't need to concentrate too much on, that you can just sort of relax and watch and just take it for what it is, which is like a typical romance comedy, then I would definitely recommend it for people. Personally, I
Wow.
enjoyed it.
All right. Darkman. This is more
Ooh,
bizarre than anything because we saw this because of Javan.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
Um, I don't think Javan can be anything like this, but might be
Mm.
that it is like this. I have no
I,
idea yet. I'm working on
mm,
a episode for this, so I
yes,
guess I'll
I'm
detail it
excited
more in
about.
that. Maybe just
Yeah.
like we should brush off what the movie was like for you and what I thought some of that.
Mm. I mean, hmm, it was um it was bad. just just putting it out there.
And notice
Like,
the teal and orange in the poster, as it does with
yes.
almost every film.
Mm, yeah, that's true. Yeah, like you pointed that out to me once, and I've not stopped noticing it since in like
In
so many
almost
movie
every action
posters.
film, it is there.
Yeah, yeah, and particularly in action. It
Even
is
in like
that sort
Pathaan,
of
that has that teal and orange,
yeah,
but they have
yeah,
some other alternate versions of its posters, and
mm,
I think they look better than the original, like
yeah,
the main one.
yeah.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
like this film, is it kind of like a DC film? Is that what it is? Like a
Mm,
like a like it's
no,
kind of like
I don't think
but
so. It is. No, it's not.
it's kind of like right. So the character reminded me of a bit of like Spawn.
Oh yeah.
And I think
I
I
don't know
don't
whether
know if
Spawn was written
Spawn came
after this or
before
before
that,
though.
yeah. So I don't want to say it's copied that, but I just saw like a parallel between the characters. Like so basically it's about a man who gets disfigured and he's a scientist and he's trying desperately to come up with solutions on how to help himself and others. Basically, is the plot, and he has this love interest, and um, she's not aware at first that he's alive, and so there's sort of that aspect to it, but it's kind of like it did remind me of like a DC kind of vibe, like those typical sort of superhero films. Like it kind of went with the grain of like the typical beginning, middle, and end of like a superhero film, but it had, I would say, no real substance. And it felt kind of gimmicky and also kind of like a parody of those sorts of films. Like instead of it being just one of those films, which of course has like a bit of cheese and all of this. And like sort of generic storylines for the most part in most superhero films, but it felt gimmicky of it, as if it was almost um like a making fun of those things, even though it wasn't trying to do that. That's how it come across. And I mean, the aesthetic, I would say, like the look, and like you're going to talk about this as well because the Javan look is very much like inspired by that.
Yeah,
As
it's
you
it
like, as
can
you
it
pointed that out,
cannot
and
be
I
that
didn't
it
know
is
this,
not inspired from
yeah.
that.
So it definitely is, but so the look itself, I liked, but the sort of romantic link between him and the wife was sort of didn't really feel like anything. Like you didn't connect with him, you didn't connect with her. And I'm like a massive fan of him as an actor. Like I love his films. Like even his more generic action films, I'm a fan of personally. I just like him as an actor. I do think he's a great actor. But in this, he just it just it just didn't come across wow. Like it just seemed
It
like
wasn't a role
he
for
was
him,
trying,
from what I
yeah,
could
and
see.
also he was trying very hard to make the role meaningful and emotional and to pull on like people's heartstrings, but it just didn't translate on screen. And it was, yeah, just very gimmicky and very sort of like we were kind of laughing at it the whole time,
Yeah,
you know? Like, and it was just
especially in the
not the best
beginning,
film.
because the beginning was
Yeah.
so ridiculous.
Yes. Yeah.
Um,
And it was just, yeah, it was it was quite a bad film, I have to say.
the thing is, I do think Jawan will be a vigilante sort of tale, just like
Yeah.
Darkman.
Hmm.
I don't know how
Yeah.
much similarity it will have with it, but it's
Hmm.
surely gonna have a vigilante sort of a
I
um
think I
but
think it
I don't want to get too much into that because I want to
yeah,
talk
because
more
obviously
about
it's
that in the
next year.
episode. But
I think
just
like
as this,
personally,
yeah,
sorry to interrupt. I think personally, like I think it will have the it will take from the romance. I think it will have romance in there. I'm in Javan. I think it will take some of the aesthetic, and I think it will loosely take the story, but very, very loosely. I think Javan will be its own thing for sure.
yeah.
And I
Jawan,
can't
I
wait for
think
the
will be a very, very different film to this, but
yeah,
I watching it definitely has brought me a clearer vision of what I think Jawan will be like. Just
yeah,
because I think it will surely borrow elements from that, but because this film in itself has borrowed so many elements from other
mm,
dark
yeah,
characters, gray character, vigilante sort of films, that um, it might be, like sometimes, like how like an enemy's friend is your enemy, uh, or a friend's enemy is your friend. I don't know.
You'll
So,
wait. You'll wait. Oh, I don't know what you're trying to say. I thought for a second I did, and then I thought no.
anyways, let's move on. Anyway, who cares, right? The
Wait, just let
next,
me do this one line. Hey, right.
yeah.
This film, Dark Man, wanted me to go into a dark room and sob.
Can you
There you go.
stop doing these bad lines? Because they're really, really bad. I
I
don't think
think
anybody's gonna
they're good.
appreciate these lines.
I think they will. I think they will.
Right.
Okay.
I don't know about
You
that.
can-
Yeah. Right. So what are we so what's the next film here? Valimai.
Okay.
So this was this was a very unexpected film that we
Mm,
ended up watching. I didn't
uh-huh.
think we were gonna watch a film like this.
Mm,
Definitely not this film. So a little story about this film. I knew about this film when it originally came out last year. I almost booked my ticket to go and watch this film at the theaters
mm,
just because I liked the look of Ajit Kumar quite a lot. I like the look of him. He's a
mm,
good-looking act. He's the guy who kind of looks like an actor. And in a very weird
mm.
way, to me, he's like the Indian Liam Neeson, which is very weird because we saw
Yeah.
Darkman
Okay.
right before
Yeah,
this,
I agree with that
right?
actually.
He has that sort of like a look.
Yeah.
Um, and the thing is, I wanted to go watch this film last year only, and then I just sort of didn't because I had
Mm,
like a mixed. I heard about like mixed reviews with this, but personally,
mm.
I liked the film. It was a
Same.
one-time watch,
Mm,
but it was a good enough one-time watch.
yeah. Yeah.
And the action in it was unlike anything I've seen before in
Mm,
Indian
mm,
films.
mm.
And
Oh,
in
in any
Bol
film.
in or any film, yeah,
Yeah.
for that matter of fact, because it's like so like it's almost like drone footage shot on like
Yeah.
body cams and GoPros almost, and put into a big budget film like this with its
Mm,
high octane epic, scale action on like
mm.
highways and stuff with like trucks going, all the way here and there. And
Yeah.
what I liked about this film was that I thought it was quite original because I tried to
Mm,
see if it's copied any scenes from anywhere or anything like
mhm,
that. It didn't. I thought that
mm.
the action was pretty cool. Of course, it was very stylish and stuff.
Yeah.
Um, and it's a very simple super cop, kind of story.
Mm, mm.
Um, the villain I thought was quite good in some times and quite
Yeah.
like ridiculous in
Yeah.
some times.
Yeah.
He was almost
I mean,
laughable at some points and almost quite
yeah,
intimidating at some points.
I think I think the fact that he was kind of laughable though is kind of like showing that a lot of these because obviously right. So in this film, it's about like a drug lord, basically,
Uh-huh.
is what he is. But he's like a younger guy, like a younger drug lord. I thought
Yeah.
he did play it really well. Like I think at times he was genuinely quite quite like scary, like quite intimidating. And like the aesthetic, like his eyes like looked very like oh like aggressive, like almost like animalistic. Um
Hmm.
and I do think
And
for the
which
kind of
was the
laugh
intent of like his gang as
yeah,
well, because they were very
yeah, because
animalistic,
they
if you
become
remember.
yeah, so they become like very animalistic because they're all on this crazy drug. And like I felt like the fact that sometimes it was a bit comical, I actually think makes quite a lot of sense because you do have like these men in reality that have like this bravado and kind of like make themselves into almost like this godly figure, like I'm so intimidating, I'm such a man, that they become laughable. So I kind of think that his character sort of represented those sorts of men in
Hmm.
reality.
I
Um,
think it was
I love,
unintentional though, but it worked out in
yeah,
their
I do
favor.
think,
They were
yeah,
lucky with
I,
that.
I, I loved the action in this film.
Oh
I
yeah.
thought it was one of the most like original action like sequences I've ever seen in a film. Like the characters, so the whole gang were very like you said, very animalistic, and so their movements were very wild, almost like kind of like inhuman almost. And they were sort of on these sort of rollerblades and these really cool motorcycles, and they had these super cool masks. Like I found the
And
aesthetic
the
brilliant in
violence
this
that
film,
they were committing was so
and
graphic
it was
and just
extreme.
shown like that.
Yes. So the violence, what I was going to say what I love about the violence. That sounds a bit wrong, but what I liked
He was like, you
about
need to
the
join our
violence in
gang.
this film
Yeah.
was the fact that it was brutal. It showed the
Hmm.
reality of how brutal people can become on
Yeah.
these sorts of drugs. Like you see it all the time with the nicest people who get taken over by drugs and become something completely different, something that they wouldn't recognize if they look
I
back on
remember like
themselves.
there was these videos from like Brazil where there was this drug that
Mm.
literally created people into zombies, and it was like a rave
Yes.
party. And in
Yeah.
the
Hmm.
aftermath, everybody was sort of like zombie,
Yeah.
like that, you know?
Ugh,
It was quite
horrible.
scary to see.
Yeah.
And it's like this stuff is real. People do
It
this.
showed that,
And it is a
which I
big problem,
appreciate.
even in India or anywhere,
Yeah.
you know?
Everywhere.
Drugs
Everywhere.
are everywhere now.
Yeah.
And they're almost like almost in every other household, and it's right
Mm.
there in the open. And the fact that it's such a big thing and people have hidden it so well, it shows like the sort of like commitment from normal
Mm.
common people as well to doing it, that they can go as far as to almost pretend like it does not exist, but they are doing it.
Yeah.
It's happening
Yeah.
within our society.
Yeah.
um
It is.
and
It
this
is
film
kind of
counters
like.
that. This film
It
is
does.
quite edgy on the themes it was
It is
taking, because
extremely
it had a
edgy,
lot of
actually.
social commentary and a lot of
Mm.
political commentary without
Mhm.
ever being specific.
Yeah,
um it talked a
like
lot
because it
about.
shows.
Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt. It
Yeah.
like has it talks. It shows like the corruption that exists, like in policing and just in society in
In
general,
all the
where like
systems
higher
of
up
society.
people.
Yeah,
Yeah, in
from like the
every
common
country.
people up to the
Yeah,
governments to,
yeah, and like
social
how it's
figures.
yeah, and how like there's so much sort of like corruption and sort of like inner deals and things like this where
Yeah.
you get like these higher up people that are meant to protect and actually they're taking advantage of that power and that's in spite of the everyday person that it
Yeah.
affects. So I loved that they went there. I did find it very edgy. I loved like the neon tones. There was a lot of like neon colors, which I really liked.
Oh
It was
yeah,
almost like
definitely. The
vaporwave-ish
night
or
scenes
like
were very beautiful.
flavor-ish
Oh yeah, the night
almost.
scenes were so amazing in the movie. I loved the look of the
They
night scenes.
looked they looked amazing.
Yeah.
And I
I
thought
just wish
all the
that
actors were great.
the thing
Yes.
is we I was kind of like teasing you about like how I'm gonna watch more like South Indian cinema now, like
Mm,
more South Indian
mhm.
commercial cinema.
Yeah.
And I was just like, oh, look at this trailer of this film I'm planning to watch, which
Mm.
was Valimai. And then you saw that and you were like, this is the movie I want to watch tonight. And I was like, this movie's three
Yes.
hours long. Are you sure? And you said, yeah, let's watch it. And we watched it
Yeah.
and we both enjoyed it a lot.
Mm.
This is, I would recommend this film just based on its like action sequence in that like park when they do it, with that whole
Mm. Mm.
bikes when they're chasing and they're doing like
Yeah.
woo and they're just doing flips and flops. I love that scene. So just based on
Yeah.
that alone, I'd recommend this film.
I
It's
appreciate
definitely
it.
worth a watch.
I appreciated it. I appreciated
Yeah.
the originality and the creativity of the film and
And
what
this
it
film
said.
really made me a fan of Ajit Kumar, and I've got more films of his like in my
Yes,
watch
yeah.
list that we're
I'm
definitely gonna
definitely
check
a
out.
fan of his. He
Yeah,
has such amazing presence on screen.
yeah. He doesn't
Really
try
great
that
presence.
hard, and that's what I like
And
about him because he's kind of like Salman in that sense.
yeah, he's kind of like you are right, like he has that Salman vibe, like he like an older Salman Khan. But
Hmm.
he has that sort of everyday man thing about him, which I
Yeah,
really like. He's not like, this pretty guy who's
and
just
that
like
is the large part of
muscular and that's
appeal, I
it.
think. Yeah,
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 yeah.
yeah. It's good. It's a good movie. I liked it.
Yeah, I would recommend this for sure.
Yeah. All right. What
Ooh.
a downturn with this one.
Ooh.
Ooh. I wish this was the
Ooh.
last film I ever saw, The Last Coffee. This film had a lot of potential, especially because I
Oh.
liked that guy so much, Shoaib, his name
Mm,
is.
mm,
And because I've grown up watching Ankita on that show, Pavitra Rishta, with Sushant Singh Rajput, who is sadly no longer with us.
mm. Yeah.
Grew up watching that with my
Mm,
mother every night at 9 p.m.
yeah.
And just because I'm so familiarized with her face, and because Shoaib, the main actor, came across as so genuine of a guy, and just the way he would speak, his dialect
Mhm,
was so
mhm.
like pure.
He has a
And
great tone as well to his
yeah, and his
voice.
voice was
Mm,
very, very like soothing, and just this film's setting was right. It was the
mhm.
look of it was right.
Yeah,
The
yeah,
film just didn't work because of like the direction it took.
yeah.
Where like by the end, like the guy literally just goes for a few days and she is divorcing him based on just that. Like, what kind of wife is she that she cannot even hear him speak once and explain himself, where he was and what he was doing? And he was so sad about his ex-wife and stuff. And I personally, as weird as the ending was, liked it because of how vague it was. I
I
didn't
mean,
need to know.
it did. Let's just put it this way: it did look like he, instead of dying, was maybe partaking in something else. I think it's safe to
What?
say. Remember? Do you not remember the last scene?
Oh, yeah, it looked like that, but it looked like that. But I thought that that's what you were implying that the film was trying to show. I thought that was
Oh
unintentional what happened there. But do you know what? If I'm honest with you, I'm gonna watch more of this guy's films just because I
yeah.
like him a lot. He
Hmm.
writes his own stuff, he directs it, he sings the songs in his films, he acts in them.
Yeah,
Either
yeah,
he's the biggest narcissist on earth or is like just about rightfully talented in the things he's
yeah.
doing. I
I
think he
mean,
has great potential to go on and become a director
I would
later on.
agree. The
Like
thing
he
is,
can
I
become a
like
big
the
director.
fact that in this film, you could tell it wasn't a big budget. I liked that. Like it had a cozy feel all the way through. I would definitely say that. It did have like a cozy feel to it. Like the locations were stunning. The songs were like well done. I enjoyed the songs. Him as an actor come across very well, and actually all the actors and actresses in this came across very well. I think for me, what it was kind of like it just missed something. At times, it was a bit laughable. Like the
Oh yeah.
line, I think the script writing was quite basic. I would say that.
Uh-huh.
Instead of it just being like
And the
simple,
sound was
and
weird as well in the movie. The sound
yes,
was not
yeah,
right, which is
yeah, I agree.
surprising because it's by
Mm,
Z, which is like a very big
yeah,
company. The
mm,
sound mixing I thought was horrible because the film has two songs, and if you listen to them on Spotify, because I listened to them once on Spotify after watching the film,
mm,
they actually
mm,
don't sound that bad. At least one of them doesn't,
yeah.
at least a certain section of it. But in the film, it sounds like he's speaking out of, he's like sitting on the toilet seat in the bathroom of the studio, and that's where he's singing from, as disgusting as that imagery could be. Not because of the guy, but
No,
just
I
because of
know
the
what you mean. The
circumstance.
audio of it, like the
Yeah, because it
sounding.
sounded like he was
Yeah.
speaking from a tunnel and, he's like in a bunker hiding somewhere.
Yeah.
Probably from on the day of this film's premiere, because
I
everybody was looking for him to beat him up.
I
No,
think
I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
I think
The film
like
had potential.
yeah, it had a lot of potential. It was
I
just
think he
something with
will,
the thing.
I honestly think he will one day make a very great film. I think he'll get
I
there.
agree. He has a lot of potential.
I would
He
love
comes
to
across
talk to
very
this
well on
guy because
screen.
he just seems so
Yeah.
nice.
And you can see that he's passionate about it as well. Like you could see there was love put
He
into
was
it.
really passionate.
Um,
He really is.
although there was a bit too much love put into it, it looked like at the end. um,
No, don't say that. Okay. Anyways, let's
but
go to the next one. You have a
okay,
concluding line here
I
on
was
this.
right. I was just gonna say, I think if the it would the sorry if the dialogue was a bit more natural, a bit more like conversational, then it would have been a really brilliant film. I think it was the scripting that let it down, and this tiny bit of direction. Although I liked most of the direction of the film, but I do also think what was I going to say?
Some of the
I
shots of
do
the
also
movie were really nice, and some others just
yeah,
looked like they were just didn't try hard enough. They were
just
just like,
was
yeah, let's
slightly
just
missing
take it from that
something. I
angle
would say
and get
yeah.
over with it.
Yeah. I think it has a lot of potential
And I
as
feel
a
like
film.
some of the shots, like they put in the final cut, should have been in the, like one of the ones that they shelved instead of choosing
And
them as the
also
final
like
one.
considering he's a great lyricist in terms of songs, he's basically a poet in this film and the poems, I'm really sorry to say, were a little bit
Th-
funny
they're not
and
that
very
funny. They're
racist
not
and
that
cheesy.
funny in the original language, but the subtitle, this
Yeah,
is a big problem as well. The
that's the
subtitles
thing. That
problem.
is true.
The
Yes, the
subtitles are, they
subtitles
just
were
don't
very
do it hard
basic.
enough, man. They don't put
Mm.
enough effort in it. They need
But
to,
the
they
thing
need
is,
to
you've
write
got
it.
the English language that compared to like all the Indian languages are is so basic compared to that. You know,
But
you
even
have
in
one
that,
that
there's
is
so much beauty with like if
yeah,
you read like actual good poems from good poets,
yeah,
they just use the language so beautifully. If
yeah,
they just need, they just I think they don't put enough work into this stuff. They just
yeah.
let it off. And
Mm.
they don't think it's that big a deal, but I think it
It is a
ruins
huge
films.
deal.
Yeah.
It does because as well we've watched films in the past, particularly comedy films, where the joke has been completely changed
Completely
and
changed.
you know,
Yeah.
made so much more basic
Yeah,
as
yeah,
the
yeah.
English version.
The
And
specificity
so
of the
I'm like
joke is
sat there,
lost and they just make it really
yes.
vague. And
And
it
then like
just,
I'm sat there like not really laughing. You're like seriously, like that was hilarious. And then I was like, oh, it's okay. And then you tell me like the actual joke, and then I'm like
yeah.
finding it hilarious as well. So I do think they need to work on that.
Hmm.
I think it's a huge deal, and I
Except
think
I
it's a
don't think
real.
they will.
I think it's a huge shame to dilute something that's so great into
Mm.
something that just isn't. I would say that.
Yeah. Right.
Mhm.
So after this, I saw this film, which you didn't see,
Mhm.
TJMM.
So I
My
will let you go off from this.
all I want to say is this film has the most wrong casting. Shraddha
Ooh.
Kapoor has always played the girl next door very well.
Mm,
She is playing a cunning, strategic, strategizing, traitor sort of a girl.
but enough
Who,
about me.
but and Ranbir, who in his public life at least, has been looked
Mm,
at as a charismatic, big time
down
romantic
to
kind of a guy. Yeah.
yeah,
And that's been his image, fortunately or unfortunately, because
yeah,
he has said a lot of times that he does not like that that's his image, that he's the poster boy for all this stuff. But
yeah,
he is put into that light, and that's their images. You can't change that. And Salim Khan
yeah.
once said, "We don't deal in people, we deal in images." And if that's his image,
Mm,
that's his image. That
mm,
is one of the big reasons why this film didn't work for me. I walk into the
yeah,
theater, and the first song that's playing, basically saying "Ek baar hi kiya to yaro pyar kya kiya," which means if you've just loved once, then have you really loved? Meaning that you should love again and again and again.
what?
And then yeah, and then his character in the film is basically falls in love for the first time, or I don't know, like because they never reference
Mhm.
any exes or anything. of his, and he falls in love for the first time with this girl, and then
mm,
he basically drags his life to hell for her and his family's
mm,
life to hell for her, and she
mm.
has a problem with his family and she wants a separate life
So
from his
is
family.
she right to have a problem with his family, or is
I think
family
this
like,
her characters are rather problematic, and if this film would have been a
yeah,
bigger success and have influenced girls in that sort of way,
mm,
not to say that you shouldn't live away from your family, that's your
yeah,
personal choice depending on your
mm,
circumstance. I
mm,
just thought that the girl's character was problematic because she just troubled him so much, and he was a liar to her through most of the film, and
mm.
he was sort of like playing along to the troubles. And then by the end, he just sort of expects the
So
audience
he
to
was
sympathize
like
with him.
an enabler of her, would you say?
I
Like
can't
he
really
enabled her to take it.
understand how to like say it because
Yeah.
it's so hard to explain this film. You watch it and you
And
just like, where did the past 2 hours and 40 minutes go? Because I don't
you
understand what
said
was
you
going
kind
on.
of like, because you took a couple of other
You
people
know,
with you, and you said you
this
kind of like joked about how bad it was at times.
yeah. Yeah, we were
Yeah.
roasting the film in the second half just because like whenever a character would start speaking, they would not stop. And
Mm,
it's like Love Ranjan, the director of this film, he has been very popular for doing very great monologues in his films. That became
mm,
sort of his USP right off the first film. In the
yeah.
right before the climax of which, like you have this really long monologue about women and the problems that they create for men. And he and he
Mm-hmm.
bas and he basically like he has done that well in his career always.
Yeah.
But in this film,
Mm,
he's overdone it. It's like every other scene is like that. Every other scene is a long monologue, and it just doesn't. It fails
yeah.
there. And
Mm.
there's like for a comedy film, the theater that I was sitting in, I swear to God, people didn't laugh once together. You could hear
Ooh.
like broken laughter, like off to the side, maybe, or something like that, just sort of
Mm.
because out of the awkwardness of it. But I could not hear the crowd laugh once
Ooh.
at any scene in the entire film. And it's
Mm.
just like if you have these two images and then you're playing them against each other and you're giving the opposite roles to each other. Not to say that Ranbir or Shraddha are not allowed to counter their images as actors,
Mm.
but they're not doing it well enough to be convincing. So they
Yeah.
either do it really good, and I don't think it's their fault as well. The problem is in the script. The script is problematic. Her character is as problematic as the woman's character in La La Land. It's the same kind of based on the script.
Oh, yes, she was a in
And
that.
yeah, and it's the same kind of thing here. Like,
By the
and
way, if anyone hears like a dodgy background noise, it's because my tummy is rumbling so much because I'm so hungry. So just like to put that
all
out
right,
there.
so we'll
If you
fasten
hear
this
like a
up. Oh
little
my God.
beep.
This is the next film, Godsend.
Oh
You came up with a very
God.
good line for this. You should say it, I think.
I can't remember.
It was
Well, I said at first, like, God definitely didn't send this film because it was that bad.
no.
And I also, what
Your
was
line
your
was, I'll say it, God send, more like send God.
Yes, that was it. It was a brilliant line. How could I not
And
remember?
I
Although
came up with a line that I thought was better than yours, which was God send,
okay,
more like hellbend. Just because this
that
film is just like, it's just like a blue balls adventure of nothing. There's nothing that happens. Guys, if you're seeing the poster of this film, don't worry. Everybody lives in this film. Nobody dies. No, and not that a character has to die in in a horror or a thriller film, but it is usually expected. At least one of them dies on the poster. On the
yeah.
poster, one of them has to. But in this film, things sort of happen, and then nothing
Mm.
really changes. It reminds you of
Well,
Max Payne. Time moves
mm,
forward and nothing changes. It's just like that. Nothing changes. This film is
I,
BS.
I just wish, like, when watching this film, that God sent me back to
And
before I started watching because it was that bad. The thing is, the idea, I
as was the
guess,
wish of everybody who made this film. And they wasted Robert De Niro. They make him look like
he was
an
a
idiot in this film.
legend.
Like he's getting like
He's
kicked
one
in
of
the
my favorite
face.
actors.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's one of my favorite actors, and in this, he just. The thing is, like, wouldn't say he acted badly in this. I wouldn't say that.
He never
I
does
just think
that.
the script was a bit, and
Nobody
also like
acted badly in this film. Even the
the
kid did a good
idea.
job.
Yeah, like none of the acting was poor, I would say, And the thing is, like, the idea itself was an interesting idea.
Oh yeah,
You know, it's
definitely.
about cloning basically. And
Yeah,
obviously, like, there's animals that have literally been cloned. And so it's not too far-fetched to imagine that at some point that will happen to humans at the same time. So the idea itself had so much potential. And to have someone like Robert De Niro, like, that is a legendary man. Like, he is a brilliant actor, like a
yeah.
brilliant actor.
He's
And
inspired from Amitabh
this
Bachchan to
script,
Dilip Kumar
yeah,
to Shah Rukh Khan
yeah,
to, I mean, who
legend,
hasn't?
literally,
You know,
yeah.
he's your
Anyone
favorite
who,
actor's favorite actor.
yeah, yeah. That's true, yeah. Um, but so it had potential, this film, but it just kind of went nowhere. Like, it was
Exactly.
weird. It kind of built up and built up a little bit and built up a little bit. And then it sort of ended on, I'm guessing what they were trying to do was leave it open ended, like, in terms of maybe, like, it leaves you thinking, oh, what will happen next? But actually, it didn't make us think that. It made us think, like, what the hell was the point of this whole film? Because, like, nothing happened in
It's
there
like if like
really. Oh,
it's like if Stephen King was trying to write a David Lynch story. So it's like
yeah,
just it's gonna be bizarre, but then it goes more bizarre because in David Lynch's films, it seems to happen that a lot of things happen, but then nothing really changes by the end. In a
mm-hmm,
major way, like things change, but characters really don't have like a crazy arc. But that
yeah,
works for him because he makes such moody films. But this film just
mm,
completely failed in both departments of mood and
mm,
of progression. Bad
yeah.
movie.
Yeah, I think God should have sent help for this film.
Stop doing these bad one-liners at the end. God, please, God, send and stop this woman from doing these lines. All right. At least we ended the month on the best note
Oh
with
my God.
Avatar: The Way of Water. Because
Yes.
this finally came out on digital after so long. And I know that you had seen Avatar re-released
Yes.
in the
Yes.
theaters, as did I.
Mm-hmm.
I saw it for less than £1, which was amazing. What an amazing
Yeah.
deal was that?
Mine cost me like 20 quid, which is
Yeah.
insane.
But
But you know,
I
that's just
watched it for less than a pound. And I even got
overpricing.
free coffee from the theater people, which was very generous of
Free
them.
coffee as well. I love
Yeah.
coffee.
I guess I just
Well, you don't
charmed
get
my
anything
way
free.
through
I even had to pay for the glasses.
it.
There's
but
nothing,
but
nothing was
this
free about my visit.
and
It
then
was like,
and then I saw Avatar 2 in the theaters, and
yeah, which I'm
there were
jealous
subtitles there, and the subtitles were all over the screen. It really bothered
about.
me, ruined the experience a bit. And I saw it in CinemaScope. I didn't see it in IMAX, and
It
that
deserves to
bothered me
be
as
an,
well. Yeah. So
yeah.
when we saw the home version on in IMAX with proper
Yes.
subtitles, not going anywhere here or there,
Yeah.
the movie is magnificent.
It
It's
is.
it is the
Yeah.
best film I've
Magical.
seen in the past decade. It is.
Yeah, I agree. It's so magical. Like, I love water. Like, I've always, like, I was kind of a bit called like a mermaid as a kid because I was constantly in water. Like, I love water. I love the animals that exist in the ocean. So
Mhm.
for me, this was like my perfect film.
Yeah.
And it didn't disappoint. Like, visually, absolutely
Ooh.
stunning. Like, this is how, like, CGI is meant to be used. It just
Hmm.
looked so crisp, so crisp. So, like, beautiful, so, like, detailed, and it looks so real but so magical at the same time. I love the fact that the creatures clearly are borrowed from, like, actual creatures that exist
Yeah.
in the world, but and
Even their
then, like,
nature of existence,
slightly
like with
different, like
whales and
slightly,
stuff.
yes, like
Because
slightly,
that's
like,
what they say about like whales and sharks, like they don't
yeah,
attack you unless you try to do
no,
something to
no,
them.
obviously
And
as
that's what
humans
the
we have a
Tolkiens
terrible
do.
history.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
that's what the Tolkiens do in the movie as well.
Yeah, and as
Oh,
humans, we
it's
have a
just
terrible history of, like, what we do to, like, innocent animals,
oh.
and, like,
And
like the
he
whole
just puts it
whaling
in our
thing. It
face, doesn't
just
he? Like James Cameron
yeah,
does not shy away from
yeah.
just
He
putting
does
it in our
not.
face, like you guys do
Mm.
this. You guys should be
Yes,
ashamed of,
yes, yeah,
hurting animals and
yeah,
considering it to be a normal practice. That's what he
mm,
shows it as. That it's such an
yeah,
obvious thing that people don't even associate it with a human
yeah,
feeling. So when they have
yeah.
this like 20-minute long chase of showing like how
Mm.
they take away the mother. And I like how they
Oh,
say the cow
awful.
for the because of course that's like a symbolism of the cows, and
Yeah,
the
like
guy
a
being a
path.
British old white male who's almost balding and overweight. That kind of
Mm.
shows that this kind of like
Yeah.
not to be like making any sort of political comments, but it
It's
sort of defines the colonialism
it
ideology,
does.
and
Yeah,
it's
it
definitely
does.
taking a dig at that.
Mm.
And
And the
he's
thing
saying
is,
a
like,
lot of
as a
things in just one scene with that. That's
and
probably
like
like the most emotional scene for
yeah,
me.
and as like a white person, I do think we kind of just do have this like shameful history. Like we feel very ashamed about our history, and almost at times you kind of become a bit in denial because you're so like ashamed and you feel like how could that have been part of my ethnicity's history. I mean, I don't
Yeah.
know my full lineage. I kind of come a bit from everywhere, but as like a I identify as a white person now, so like I feel like sometimes as a society we kind of look away from subjects that make us uncomfortable, and like our history and colonialism, and also like the current um like um waves from that still exist, and
Oh
also
yeah.
like what
And
we
that's
do
why
to
the film
animals,
is relatable.
you know.
And I
Yeah.
think that the film though goes beyond just the
Mm.
colonialism factor. I'm just saying that it is one of those things, you know.
Yeah. Hmm.
But of course, uh, it strays away from that as well. So
Yeah.
I mean, I just love this film. This is
Yeah.
definitely one of the best films. And I'm not, because the thing is, when I saw this film, I thought that this is gonna be, yours, uh, maybe
Mm.
favorite film or like one of your favorite films,
Hmm.
just because I was like, oh, it's about the oceans, about the sea, and
Yeah.
you love
Yeah.
James Cameron, especially for that factor alone, just because of the
Yes.
move
Yes.
of the ocean diving stuff he's done, and he's made over
Hmm.
12 documentaries about it and
Yes,
stuff.
which is so cool, by the way. So check out
Yeah,
those documentaries. They're a bit
yeah,
hard to find, but they're worth watching. They're
yeah.
very interesting.
They're
But
very interesting.
I love the fact that he kind of targets these uncomfortable issues and just puts it right in our face, so that because people come to see this film, one because it's a huge commercial film. It's got everything you'd want in a film, and you can enjoy it because it's so magical, but at the same time it's targeting like real issues, and like issues that often are sort of like swept away, like kind of hidden. With him, he's completely blatant about it, and he's unapologetically blatant about it, which I absolutely love,
I love
because
that.
so many
Yeah,
people, especially nowadays, try so hard not to offend anyone that they
yeah.
they probably stay away from making changes that need to happen because they're so worried about what other people will think. But James Cameron just has no fear with that. And I love that. And he's so committed to the message that he wants to give out. And like what I love about this film as well is you can see like just as like the creatures are like very much based on reality, and then they're given that edge of like sort of like an alien species, but at the same time you also have the avatars that um, all come from different cultural backgrounds as well. So,
Well, they're
you know,
Navis.
yeah,
The avatars
yeah.
are the humans that are,
Oh, yeah, of
just to
course.
be specific. Yeah.
Um, but like, what I mean, that is so dumb. But
No, that's not dumb because I think because the title is so, like
yeah,
it sort of associates it. Even
which
I
also
just thought of that now.
you've
Yeah.
got you've got a, like a thing about how that title came about. So say that quick because I think that's quite
Well,
cool.
the story goes that Govinda gave it to James Cameron, as he claims, because he was going to get the role of the doctor. Because he never
Mm,
specified it, but he said that it was supposed to be, it was not the main role. So, and then
yeah,
you see the movie, and it's the guy who's the doctor is Indian. So,
mm,
my guess is that it was supposed to be Govinda playing that character.
yeah.
I would have loved to have seen him in that film, even if it was
I
not
would
that
have
big a
as
role.
well. I can't even imagine it, but I think somehow he would have done a
He
great
would have
job.
done it well, yeah. And because
Yeah.
of his humor, and his sense of
Mm,
command on the screen, I think he would have done it well. But that's, a story for another day anyway. But yeah, that's just a quick snippet. As he
yeah.
claims that he gave the title to him. I don't know whether he did
But
or not, but there's
so what I
definitely
was,
influences from Indian culture
yeah,
here.
oh,
I mean, it's
100%.
pretty
Yeah,
obvious that
this
it
is what I
is.
was saying. So before I made the slip up of the Avatar thing, basically what I was trying to say is the fact that you in this film you also see that these, because initially you watch a film and it's about aliens, right? But then you can also see like all the real culture like that has inspired these eight
Yeah,
I
yeah.
was going to say people, but you know, these
And
characters.
yeah,
And like in this one, it kind of expands and shows that actually, even within this species, there's also like so
there's
many
different
different
cultures.
cultural
Yeah,
strands, you know, and
yeah,
that then causes problems. This film also targets like racism and like ignorance with other cultures and things, which was
yeah.
really brave of him to do as well. So I loved that.
It
I
shows like
loved
that
it.
class divide and the
Yeah.
division in culture according to what basically way of living they have, because they call them the forest people. As
Yeah.
you could
Yeah.
say that people who live near the ocean would make fun of people who live near the forests or come
Mm,
from those kind of, mountain areas and stuff like that.
mm,
That exists with humans itself. So,
yeah.
I mean, there's so many endless themes in this film. It's taken so long to
Mhm.
make, and it's just
Oh,
perfect. It
it's
doesn't
so worth
disappoint
it though.
in
They've
one
done it.
frame. It doesn't,
Exactly. Yeah,
yeah.
not one
It,
second
it
is like a
is, I would
waste.
not be afraid to admit that this is probably the best film I've seen
Yeah.
in the past 10 years. And the one before that might have just well as been Avatar. So,
Yeah.
I mean, this is in my top 10 movies easily. I
For
don't have the
sure. So
courage to
I
watch it again and again, but once, twice, thrice, just you watch it once
it's,
in a year or 2 years, it
it's just
remains
such
with
an
you.
experience watching it,
Yeah,
I would
it
say.
is.
You know,
It is an
yeah.
experience.
And it's
All
just
right, I
beautiful.
think that sort of wraps it up.
Yes.
We can talk a lot about Avatar, but we got to wrap it up
Yeah.
now.
I will
Um,
apologize to the people listening because like I was saying to you in private, people really love your voice because it's super
that's not
relaxing. I love your
entirely
voice as
true.
well. But I hope that I wasn't too obnoxiously loud throughout this.
No, no, no,
And
no.
I
I'll
hope
balance
that
the audio
you
there, guys.
enjoyed
Don't
this.
worry.
Yeah, like edit
But
me out. It's okay.
no, then I'll have to cancel the entire podcast. But so this is the first time you did this.
Yeah.
I think you did a very amazing job.
Oh,
Just because
thank
you
you
were
so
being natural, that's what I like. Staying natural, and
yeah,
staying original. That's the drive. That's the purpose of the both the detective run channels is to do something original, to bring
exactly. Yeah.
something that's something fresh for the audiences around the world. And
Mm.
our target is not Indian audiences or any
No,
demographics,
everyone.
nothing. We're making
Mm,
this just like Cameron for the world to see.
mm.
We're making
Because I
something that we
have
love
to
for the
say,
world.
and I have to say this also, like I've like known you for like quite a few years now, and I am completely new. Like it's only been the last 5 years that I've really got into like Indian cinema. And I know obviously we're not just talking about Indian cinema
Yeah,
here,
yeah,
but
yeah,
I just have to say, like, I have such a deep appreciation now for Indian cinema,
yeah.
and you've
A
gave
lot
that
of
to
people
me. So thank
disregarded
you
it as just,
so much.
people dance, people do this and
It's
stuff.
just its
But
own special
and
thing
it's
and
just not,
nothing.
Indian cinema, because even in
Yeah.
just this watch, what we watched this month,
Mm,
we literally saw from South Indian cinema to
yeah.
Hollywood to bad
Mhm.
Hollywood to good Bollywood to good
Yes.
bad Bollywood to
Yeah.
Tollywood to all this stuff. Like it's just like it goes around the world, and that's the intent. But
And I
with
hope
that,
that people
yeah.
sorry, like I hope that people maybe who like maybe come on your channel for maybe one of the English videos who's never watched Indian cinema before thinks actually, do you know what? I'll give it a try
Oh yeah,
because
and that's why I'm
it's
doing
brilliant.
that's one of the reasons why I'm doing the Avatar one and relating
Yeah.
it back to K3G. That's
Yes,
going to
that's
be an
another.
interesting project, so I'm working
Mm,
on that.
yeah, I'm
Uh,
excited about
yeah,
that.
yeah. But
Yeah.
anyways, that was the first time
Mm,
Girlie Detective Run is
yes.
here at Movie Detective Run doing the podcast. What we watched this month. Officially, this is the first episode of the podcast because we're both together in this for the first time. But
Yes.
of course, it's the third episode technically. But I'd really like
Hmm.
to think that really this is where it begins. So the good luck charm is now with us. So hopefully, this will only boost up from here once a month, 12 episodes a year. What we watched this month for the month of
Yes.
March 2023. Thank you for listening and
Yeah, thank you
bye. Take
guys.
care.
Yeah,
Bye.
bye everyone. Thank you.
Bye. All right. Bye. Um,
Bye.
bye.